What do a speaking coach, a strategy consultant, and a multicultural leader have in common? Sounds like the start of a bad joke, right? But honestly, it's all about finding out what people really do in their jobs. The stories, the struggles, the coffee breaks. The real stuff you won't find in the job title.
Welcome to a space where we sit down with people from all kinds of careers, have a laugh, and dive into what makes their work meaningful. Whether you're looking to learn something new or just here for a good story, let us be your guide. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Charlie.
And let's get casually
pro!
Woo! Today, we sit with the highly energetic Hana Brellah. Hana, we met in Frankfurt Toastmasters Business Club last year. For info, Toastmasters is an international organization with clubs all around the world whose mission is to empower people to become effective communicators and leaders. In that meeting, Hana, you immediately stood out as an incredibly driven and energetic person. You told me that you wanted to present more keynotes and teach public speaking. And you made it. You're a keynote speaker and a public speaking coach who also have more than 20 years of experience working and leading teams in the pharmaceutical industry. You're originally from Algeria and often share about your ties with the country on LinkedIn. I hope we'll also talk about that today. And fun fact, Charles, you're going to like this. A few months ago, I was going to a Toastmasters meeting in Frankfurt. I was looking for the way to the meeting when suddenly I heard behind me, Casually Pro! I turned around and of course it was Hana. Hana, I'm super happy to be here with you today. Can you please start by telling us who you are, what you do, and how you got to do what you do?
What a great, enthusiastic, and energetic intro, both of you. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Thanks for having me, Charlie. It would be difficult to introduce myself in few words, but I will try. I will really give it a try. So my name is Hana Brellah, as you mentioned. I'm a public speaking addict because public speaking could be an addiction, especially if you do it because you love this connection with the audience, with the stage, and you do it consistently. And then let's start to go backward. From the public speaking addiction, I will go backward to leadership in the pharmaceutical industry, and not just local leadership, but international and multicultural leadership, because I started my career of the pharma industry in my home country, in Algeria. Then after a few years experience and some job opportunities, I moved to Dubai, where I spent a few years. And from the sunny Dubai, I moved to the actually gray Germany, not only in winter. And here I am celebrating 7 years already in Germany. In parallel to that, as you mentioned about helping you find in your way to find our Toastmaster Club because it was a different location, I launched in February my own company as a keynote speaker and public speaking coach called Find Your Voice by Hana Brellah. And it's actually celebrating 9 months right now. So it feels almost like a baby, like a birth from February to now. And this is bringing me a lot of fulfillment. You could imagine that after so many years in the pharma, I needed a new purpose. And even if I had the opportunity to speak at multiple opportunities in the pharma, be it as a keynote speaker, as a master of ceremony, or even mentoring other people, for me, it was a time to build out of my passion, my expertise, and my purpose something that I can really motivate other people and bring them to next level in public speaking. And here I am right now in Frankfurt.
Wow, it's an incredibly storied career, especially coming out of an area like pharma. It feels almost a little strange, right? I don't think we see a lot of, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of really social and engaging positions inside of like the pharma industry, but I feel like outside of maybe reps or people that are designed to sell or designated to sell, it's very rare to see people go towards like a designated personal kind of like public speaking leadership area that isn't already in leadership, right? Um, so, but I'm so curious. What made you so fascinated with leadership and public speaking? Because at least my understanding is that public speaking is one of the most feared things, kind of in all of humanity. I think in the list of things people are afraid of, it's above death, which is slightly strange if you ask me. But what
It's
made
true.
you so interested in
Yeah, it's a long story. I didn't want to talk about my first singing hobby, but here we are. We're gonna talk about it. So it all started for me with being on stage and connecting with the audience through words that I was singing, not speaking. And I make a lot of analogies between the singing and speaking. So since I started singing when I was a child at school, then some song competition, then I was on stage with some bands at that time, more than 20 years ago. I also realized that stage is my feel-good place. Am I having the fear of public speaking like everyone? Yes. But the fear of public speaking is something through the positive self-talk that can move from a negative fear, like the fear of death, to a positive adrenaline, the performance fear. And this is something I got to explore quite early in my life and followed me. And slowly, my second passion, which is public speaking, caught up with my first love and my first passion, which is singing, and then came together. Also, from a leadership perspective, and I agree with you, most of the time in the pharma, we feel like it's a conservative industry, which is to a certain extent true. But if you seize the opportunities and you make your position or your industry as creative as possible, as risk taken as possible, then you can make something creative out of it. I studied pharmacy, so I'm a pure medical background person. However, when I joined the pharma, from the beginning, I chose rather business positions. So I was in sales, then in marketing, then business development, then leadership in sales and marketing, then commercial excellence. So this having this double hat where my heart is in science and my head is more in business also helped me to be exposed to public speaking, whether in one-on-one with customers or in a group of people where you are presenting or pitching or even presenting on a round table or a panel discussion. This followed me a bit in the pharma industry, and very quickly I realized that it's up to us to decide, do we want to be the specialist in the pharma, or do we want to be the generalist, touching multiple areas, or do we want to be the T-shape? T-shape leadership, it's something, a concept I can also explain, but I'm a big believer on T-shape, which means that you have your core expertise on one or two things. This is the I, but you are flexible enough to try out different things and to have an overall knowledge of multiple things. And this what makes a bit the pharma less conservative or less specialist.
Wow, very interesting this view. It reminds me of an idea that I read in a book. Yeah, you start with this expertise as a pillar because you have it, and the fact that you went so deeply into a field also gives you an a knowledge of how to learn, how to how to expand the knowledge that you have. Very interesting, Hannah. I am surprised that you started with singing. Super interesting. You know what? I also started on stage and it was poetry. Used to write
Amazing.
poem and then I told them on stage, not really told them, I screened them, I cried them, I did everything you can do. And like you, I turned a fear into something that I love. So it's an amazing feeling, and I think that's why it's so easy to connect with fellow people who do public speaking, because we have all the same process and transformation. Hannah, before we dive deeper into leadership, I would like to know how it was to do those jumps from Algeria to Dubai, from Dubai to Germany. I imagine the culture was always very different.
Yes.
Can you tell us how you did, what you learned?
Yeah. It's a very good question. So the culture is completely different. Languages are different. And in order to do this, there is the part of me that even when I was in Algeria, I am very independent and I like taking challenges. I like life-changing decisions, whether it works or not. And that's what brought me a bit to seizing opportunities and changing country. I thought I will do it once, finally twice. I think now I will stay in Germany. I feel quite good. So it requires a certain personality to settle in another country without regretting your decision and coming back the first year. It's been now almost 10 years that I'm away from my home country. So this is a bit related to the personality. On the other side, it depends also on your career. So are you thriving in your career? So did you find the right fit? So you can establish yourself professionally and you can be stable in the new country. And are you able to build networks? Are you able to create a new circle of friends? Are you able to go out there? Do you find people that have same interests and same hobbies? So the move, of course, there is the easy part to me that came with this my curiosity of newness, new people, new job, new career, new language. I had to learn German when I moved to Germany. But on the other side, it's the time that it takes. Because the first year you have this excitement, this honeymoon phase, but then you start discovering what does it really take to leave your home country? What do you carry with you on your suitcase? Because life is like a suitcase. So, what do you carry with you? Which traditions, which values you carry with you? Also, the people that are in your life, and what do you leave behind? And this is something that there is the easy and the shiny part of it that I like, but it raises questions of identity. And the main question is, where is home? So today, if you ask me where is home to me, I'll tell you I feel much more home in Germany. Is it 100%? No. Do I feel home 100% in Algeria? No. But I would say those two countries had really an impact. I feel nostalgic about Dubai because I spent 3 years, but those two countries hold something. And this identity crisis and questions is completely there. But then this negative identity crisis, you can also turn into something positive, which is multicultural leadership. Because when you live in different countries and you have regional roles, for example, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, where you deal with multiple people in multiple countries, or even take regional decisions or collaborate with global and with multiple countries around the world, you learn how to put yourself on the shoes of people. You learn empathy. You learn how to be an inclusive leader. What works in a culture doesn't work in another culture. And that's the thing that we learn. Of course, we're still with this existential identity crisis. It's part of us. But this is the same part, this itchy part, that makes our experience unique in understanding multiple cultures.
I have to say that there's such an importance that I feel isn't given in most kind of leadership roles, which is the understanding of that multicultural layer. And it's easy to say, okay, travel and then understand people's different cultures in terms of maybe nationality, but there's really a core, almost visceral component to that of it's not just being able to speak German, or it's not just being able to, manage the train schedule in Tokyo. It's really more about understanding that there are various needs to people that change from person to person, and understanding that you have to coincide as a leader to not just meet those needs, but maneuver the people in a way that they are helping each other get to the ultimate goal, which is productivity, which is finishing the project, or whatever you need in a professional capacity. But I think it's really fascinating that while this is so important, we kind of don't teach it enough, or we teach it in a very subdued capacity. And yes, okay, we have to respect other people, but it's more than just respect. No, it's active integration, and then getting people working together despite their differences.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with you, Charlie. So, despite their differences, but also finding the strength of each culture, because most of the time, it's important to understand the culture, like a local culture, whatever is the country, better. But we will never be the expert. If it's not our own culture, we will never be the 100% expert. However, we can still build consensus between different cultures that resonate the same, that the values are different, that the communication style or the perceived or the preferred communication style is not the same, and still build the consensus. And when we speak about consensus, let's say we have a project with multiple countries that will launch a new software or any project at the same time. There is the, let's say, the global or the regional strategy, the common theme, but the localization will have some differences. And how to bring people to commit to a 60%, 70%, which is ideal because it creates the consensus. It will never be 100% fit in all the countries and still understand their local needs. And this requires a lot of empathy, knowledge, a bit of knowledge on the countries, and bringing people together. It requires also moderation skills. It requires looking at the big picture as a leader. And it requires as well that you understand enough cultures to adapt your communication style. And now I'm jumping again to the public speaking. Some communication styles are very direct. And the more direct you are, the better it is. In some other cultures, if you're direct, you're rude. So understanding these nuances makes that if you are in a town hall or in a conference, standing in Dubai or standing in France or standing in Germany or standing in the US makes different. Even if you send the same message, you share the same message, you need to tweak it in a way that the style of communication is well received by the respective cultures.
Super interesting, Hannah. I wonder we might have people who are listening to this episode and who
Yes.
are in a position of working with people for different cultures. They might face some difficulties while doing it. I wonder if you could give them one or two tips of things that they can do to make things better, things that you maybe you learned during your professional experience or that you teach as a coach?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So I will start with first try to learn at least few words of that local language. Not everyone can master a language, but if you are, let's say, as a leader and you are a guest to that country and you want to really build strong connection and also make sure that the results are following in that country, if you know few words and if you break the ice with those few words, then you are welcome. Then you are showing you have a genuine interest to put yourself on the shoes of the guy. And it can be just few words. You don't have to become the Shakespeare of that language. And the second point is sit with the people. Try to understand their culture. If there is a big event, then of course there is a dinner the day before, or you have opportunity to sit with the colleagues or even sit with the customers and understand a bit what they are doing and why they are doing what they are doing. And this gives you a bit insight on what's their background, what's their goals, what's their way of thinking. So you come with a global or a regional strategy set in stone or set in slides, and then you have this local expertise and their why, and you meet them a bit in the middle. So this would be my recommendation for everyone who would like to be an international leader and lead in multiple countries, or international speaker, because then you have audiences also with multiple nationalities. Spend more time with your audience or with your people outside the stage or outside those main meetings. What happened outside the meetings is much more important. This is the big stuff. This is the casually pro stuff. This is where the pro starts. And then once you have this understanding, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to bring people with you and make them feel and involve them and include them in co-creating this strategy or co-creating this concept. And this is what we call in the strategy the or the leadership, the balance between the top down. So when you have like a regional or global strategy and it's top down, so take and execute, and the bottom up. So what are the ideas? What are the local ideas that can work? And then make a balance between this top down and bottom up. It requires also multicultural leadership requires a lot of flexibility. So trying a bit to detach from our truth is the only truth and include a bit the opinions or the expertise of the local people. Same thing for public speaking.
And I think there's a really interesting part that is I think maybe a lot of our listeners might be thinking to themselves, okay, well, maybe I don't work with that many people who are in international like in an international capacity. But this also extends to regionality. I mean,
Yes.
so I live in New York City, and while it is a fairly compact city, it's giant, but it's usually built up. The regions matter tremendously. I mean, the difference between the way that someone would interact in Brooklyn, for example, versus Queens, versus Manhattan, those all, while they're all right next to each other, the personalities and the type of people that live there vary tremendously. And even inside of there, I live in Astoria, which is, I believe, the last time I checked, the most diverse place in the world per capita. So
Wow.
if you take a slice of my neighborhood, you could find people from every single country in it, and you would still have to kind of like interact in the same way that you would with any regular New Yorker because that's kind of what they are, but they also have that hint of wherever they come from. But I think this is really important because when you take time to understand not just the complexities of intercultural and international peoples, but also regionalized peoples,
Yes.
you get a deeper understanding and deeper value out of the kind of collaboration that you can create. And I guess along those lines, because this is something that I'm really curious about when you're working interpersonally, especially with other leaders, what do you find is the most kind of uniformity difficult thing that you have to kind of um, teach them or convince them of so that they can start creating this intercultural disciplinary mindset?
I think the first thing that is the most difficult is to understand the cultures. Not all leaders are sensitive to what multicultural means, to what diversity means, and to what inclusivity means. Maybe I'm sensitive because I'm a diversity and inclusion product. So, in a way that I had to be, and then I learned. But if you had, let's say, your full career in the same country and in the same culture, then of course it's more difficult to put your shoes on the others. And this is, I'm not criticizing people that spend all their life working or living in the same country. It's just that they were not exposed. So if you are exposed, you end up learning. Now, other things that I find challenging between different leaders, which is maybe not related to multicultural, it's the leadership style. I think sometimes I see that leadership style, we think that sometimes it depending on generations, let's say Gen Z, millennial, Gen X, baby boomers, and etc. But sometimes our culture shapes our leadership style, whether we are more autocratic or we are more participative or we are more top down or bottom up, we have some beliefs that make our leadership style in a certain way. And then working with other leaders, whether it's peers or even if you are managing other leaders, if the leadership style is different, it requires more efforts. And this is also our blind spot because we tend to enjoy spending more time with leaders that have almost the same style as us. And this is, I would say, this is a bit the challenge I find with leaders. Now, I would like to jump to the leaders I coach in public speaking, because this is maybe, I would say, another challenge. What I've noticed more and more, even if my target audience is leaders, so let's say team leaders, directors, CAOs, and etc., I have noticed that emerging leaders tend to invest more on public speaking coaching than CEOs. I don't know, Jeff, if you would agree with me. And then I was also trying to understand, and of course, I spent time with those clients, and I understood that emerging leaders, when they invest on public speaking, they are not just looking to become confident speakers, they are looking to be seen, they are looking to be heard, they are looking to be felt. They are looking for visibility. They are looking for someone who brings them to the next step in their career because there are next steps and they would like somebody to take them there. However, what I've noticed is that CEOs, even if they would require stronger or even being charismatic speakers because they are the face and the voice of their organizations, they have the feeling that they arrived. So if I arrive, I am CEO. What for? Maybe Jeff, I'm sure you will also comment here. So this is
Oh,
the
yes.
challenge I see. You see the same, exactly. So this challenge I see for leaders in public speaking is this awareness that communication is not just a soft skill or a side hustle. It is as crucial as strategy, as financial operations, and as execution. And bringing this awareness not only unconsciously but consciously to prioritize taking time and to invest will bring CEOs to the next level in terms of charismatic speaker with higher impact on business, with higher impact on people, with higher trust and belonging of their employees, and with better reputation on their industries. And I'm not talking here just about pharma, I'm talking about pharma, tech, banking, any industry. This is a bit, I would say, the gap or the challenge, but at the same time, this is the opportunity to increase more awareness about the importance of communication when it comes to leadership.
Yes, and Hannah, I take the ball, and indeed, it's something that I see almost every day. CEOs that are aware that they can be better at speaking, but yet they didn't take the step yet. And I think the reason is that when you start as a leader, you face a lot of fear talking to people. But as you become CEOs, it's something that you do more and more. And so the fear tends to disappear and maybe just have some stress in very high stakes situations, but otherwise you're quite comfortable. And that's where there is the biggest misconception that public speaking, it's not just about being comfortable. And it's not just about the way you speak. It's not just about removing hesitations, making intonations, and moving on stage. It's about convincing, and it's about influence. That's the end game. That's where the money is. That's where skills get you. And this
Exactly.
misconception make that people, they until they're comfortable, they progress, and when they're at the point where they feel comfortable, they stop progressing. And that's a shame, because that's where the money gets bigger and bigger and bigger, when you
Yes.
can convince, when you can influence. And which also means that there is so much area of growth that remains in our domain, Hannah. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it
Exactly.
beautiful?
Exactly. It's an opportunity as well. And I really love what you said, Jeff, because some of the leaders, by the way, are great leaders and are good enough communicators or speakers, but they speak the same way today versus 10 years ago because they feel that they reach a level where it's okay-ish. However, every single step of improvement in clarity, in confidence, and in consistency of sharing their presentations will have a direct impact also on their business because since they are the face and the voice of the organization, they will be able to translate in a better way the strategy of the company to their teams. So the execution will follow. So that it has a direct impact on the business, something we can quantify. It has also a direct impact on the trust and the belonging they can build within their organization. And of course the reputation part. So of course we have a lot of to do to do's in this area, Jeff, for public speaking for leaders. And in parallel to that, I think there are some other leaders that, as I mentioned, that are more emerging, like I would say mid management or mid management, that they are aware about this and they are investing because they want to be promoted, or they want to change job, or they want to be more visible. And those are the ones that are willing also to invest on public speaking coaching. As I told you, I'm a public speaking addict. I can talk about this all night long, but we will keep it casual for now.
You know what's really funny? Okay, so I am currently knee deep in a project. Well, I shouldn't say. I'm writing a book about communication, but I think the most interesting part about this dichotomy of experienced versus kind of incoming or middle management leaders isn't so much just the accelerated path, but why that accelerated path exists. Um, it's because right now leaders are more curious about understanding things that are usually based in contextual or experienced or kind of intuitional based uh, kind of definitions and turning them into real tactical methodologies and practices that get them to where the experienced CEO is, but faster and better and more equipped. So my favorite example of this is talking about confidence. I don't know if you have ever kind of, in your younger days before you became an expert, looked into kind of like expert advice over communication. Um, I am in an unfortunate position where I have to. So I'm on YouTube a lot or looking through TikToks about these experts talking about how to get better at like flirting or talking to people.
Yeah.
And you know what the worst piece of advice they usually give is? All you have to do to talk to people is just be confident, right? Unless you have a baseline for understanding what confidence is and this general idea of, okay, contextualizing it using, and most people use experience. That is what makes a big difference between an incoming leader and an experienced leader is that when the experienced leader says, I'm confident, they have years of experience to qualify what that means. When a
Yes.
new leader has to say, okay, I have to figure it out from the ground up. And that's why I think leadership styles, along with people who have this experience of being able to break down these common topics, these terminologies that really don't mean anything to anyone unless you have the context attached to it, are so important. And with that being said, I'm really curious to hear about where do you feel like the line is drawn with new leaders where they start to decide if I'm going to do this, right? If I'm going to devote my career to becoming a leader in X industry or in X kind of profession, where do I make that investment of creating this pathway, accelerating this pathway? But also, where do they divert from maybe their experienced colleagues? Where do they say, you know what? I know that this is how the CEO used to do it, or this how this my direct report or anyone above me did it years ago. But there has to be a better way. Where do you usually see that little click in their head, and how does that manifest, other than, of course, hiring wonderful professionals like yourself?
Thank you. I don't think I'm wonderful, but thank you so much, Charlie. I think you raised a very important question. Why? Because on one side, you learn from mentors. And I am a true believer on mentoring because mentoring could definitely shorten the learning curve, especially for emerging leaders. But of course, the mentor can only give you what they went through. And maybe you are unique in your own way. So the thing is that if you get advice from your mentor or from your peers, you don't have to apply everything they tell you. One question in order to build confidence in who you are plus learning from people more experienced is to say, okay, if I need to grow, I need to do 1, 2, 3 advices. Do I feel those advices represent who I am? Am I aligned with those values? What is the price to pay to take those advices? Of course, I'm gonna grow, maybe. I'm gonna go to the next job. Okay. Will I be true to myself? What is my core values? And this is something that builds confidence because we think that confidence, we're not born with confidence, so we need to build it up. And the confidence doesn't always come just from experience. Some people are experienced in their role since 20 years, but they're not confident because there are two types of competencies. There are the technical competencies. You become an expert, you become a specialist on your technical competencies. On the other side, you have power skills, because I don't like the word soft skills like communication, or the networking, the power of networking. That generations before, networking was not as important as now. If you are graduated from the best schools, then you will have a great career, which is wrong today. So what builds confidence is how much you are exposed to network with people and you learn. I think, Charlie, you're also coaching people on the networking part. I've seen it on LinkedIn. So those are the things that build the confidence. And the confidence also starts from like internally from self-love. So am I accepting myself? Am I okay with my strengths and my weaknesses? Embracing weaknesses is also confidence because nobody is perfect. So I am okay with who I am. This is one side. And in order to build confidence as emerging leaders in the workplace, you need psychological safety. So you need on the other side, in the working culture, the feeling or the strategy that if you share your voice, you will not be punished for that. This is what kills confidence. Some people want to be confident and they have the potential to become quickly confident, but if each time they share an opinion, they are silenced, or there is the fear of sharing your ideas that can be bold, can be disruptive, can be rebellious, this is what kills confidence. We all have a potential to build confidence. We need some internal mindset and capacity to seek the feedback and to know what to use and what to not. And we need an environment that welcome us as confident and doesn't shut us down. That's for me what confidence is.
That's such a great point, Hannah. We need to be aware when people try something and they're not very experienced yet and they might make a mistake because obviously you don't wake up all knowledge about everything with good ideas. You always start out at the beginning and you have to try things, and we need to be aware where we see people trying something to show them our appreciation, to tell them what they did great, to give them feedback, because that's how people grow. It's so easy to cut people when they just start to raise their voice, but then we miss all they could have given to society once they grew as big trees. And this is also why Toastmasters is so great,
Yes.
because you can make your first steps there and you always have people who will help you, who will tell you what you did great, who will give you a few advices in an extremely positive environment.
Totally. And it's a safe environment as well. So that's the good thing. And the skills you learn at Toastmasters in leadership or public speaking, they are completely transferable. So you can take them and apply them back in the workplace. I think also here there is a message I would like to send to all the leaders, independently from the industry, is that they can make or break their team members. So leaders can make or break their team members. So as a leader, what do you choose? Do you want to build your team members so you can have your successor? So you build talents, so you're proud of people, so the business can grow, or it's an ego thing where you don't like or you wouldn't like to build your team members, because leaders have an important role of growing and developing their team. This is one of the most rewarding role of a leader. It's not just giving orders or deciding. It's developing people and be proud of the journey they made, whether they stay in the company or they leave it. But we have an impact on a lot of people. I had great mentors and leaders in the past that they had a very big impact on my life and my career. And it's something that is good to give back and develop other people. And they can give back and so forth and so on.
I deeply agree with that because I think there's such a surprising amount of value you get from servant leadership, not just because it helps grow your team better and faster, but because it forces you to grow along with them,
Yes.
right? The idea is if you encourage your team to take risks, to learn, to create an environment that is better not just for themselves but for the company, you automatically are pushed into a position in which you have to grow with them so that you can maintain that. I think that is, one of the core components for what we've been talking about today is growth.
Yes.
But it's also recognizing that to help yourself grow is to help others grow, and vice versa. There's no
Yes.
separation between those lines. Um, it, I'm just really curious because we talk a lot about networking and Toastmasters. Uh,
Yes.
we both get a call
Two in
or a
one.
point in those columns, right? Um,
Yes.
but when we look at the resources for leaders,
Yes.
I'm I'm hard pressed to say that there are, or I guess there's enough of a push to get leaders into a better position that isn't just their technical qualifications,
Yes.
right? Uh, I love the idea of how, well, my industry is finance. And in finance, it's all about how much you produce, how well you do it, and then that leads you up the chain of command, right? But the problem is at one point you go from being able to do, your Excels incredibly well, but then you also have to make sure that other people do them really well. And that's where a lot of managers either burn out or falter. Uh,
Yes.
and we don't put enough emphasis on, I guess, remembering or recognizing that leadership is a skill.
Yes.
Nobody is born a leader, or if they're born you can be born very charismatic, but that doesn't mean you know the technical way to make sure that your team can thrive. So, with all that in mind, I'm really curious. What's one thing that you've seen throughout your career that really brings like a more efficient leader or a more efficient producer to turn that switch, make that change, and turn them into not just a good producer, but a good leader?
One word, mentoring. For me, mentoring, I find it the most critical amplifier, whether mentoring people early on in their career or mentoring as leaders. Why? Because, of course, we have the choice to take one advice and not to take another advice. But if you have mentors, whether in your company or outside your company, that are more senior leaders than you, and they believe in you, sometimes even more than you believe in yourself, then they can give you a lot of wisdom. And there are a lot of things that you could apply. And this definitely shortened the learning curve. So whether people are mentees or mentors, because the mentors also learn about themselves, and the mentees learn in a psychological safe environment because the mentor is not the boss. So it's a higher senior professional that is not your boss, So there is a psychological safety, there is no fear of having consequences, and then you can learn. I am super grateful of the mentors I had in my life. I think if I didn't have some of the mentors, I wouldn't have ended up in Germany today. So some of the mentors believe in you, see potential in you you haven't seen yet in yourself. And that's why the power of networking is important. So it's not just the boss or like your first line manager that counts in a company. It's your peers, it's other senior people, it's mentorship program. Nowadays, there are a lot of companies that have official mentoring programs. Some of them don't have an official one, but you can still contact people and ask them to mentor you. And this what makes the switch between doing and helping others to do something, elevating your leadership presence, mentoring.
Can you tell us more on how you found those mentors and how could people who might be listening to this, they don't have a mentor, they don't know where to look for, any
Yeah.
advice for them?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So my first person that I consider a mentor, even if it was not an official mentor, and I wouldn't like to mention his name, but I am forever grateful for him. So he's a person who hired me back in 2011 for my first team lead role. That's why I'm mentioning this example. And he was my N plus two, so the boss of my boss. However, with time and with experience, he has seen my profile and he made always sure to be close a bit to my development, even if he was not my direct manager. And at some point, I left that company. So I left that company, I went to another company, we stayed in touch. I made the effort also to stay in touch with him. So this is also the role of the mentee, even if it was not official. And one day he sends me a message and he tells me, you know, Hannah, there is a company, they are hiring a responsible of marketing for their Middle East and Africa countries, and the position is in Dubai. I told them they will not find a better candidate than you. You know what? I was surprised because Dubai was never in my plan. I didn't know this was exactly the things he thought of me at this point. And I thought, okay, I was managing North African countries, still based in Algeria, going to Dubai. And he told me, look, you decide. But for me, if you want to listen to my advice, you have nothing to lose to try out and go just for the interview. This is what I did. A few months later, I ended up with 4 big suitcases with my one-way ticket to Dubai. This is just one example, and it's maybe an extreme example, but if mentors believe in you, if they're with wisdom and experience, they see something in you that you don't see yet. And if you are consistent approaching them, asking for their advice, then they could see a journey for you. And your journey might be completely different, but I would rather have those type of advices and choose what to follow and what not than no advice. So I think that the role also played here for the people that are listening to us is that as a person seeking a mentor can be everywhere. It could be the person that you network with for a karaoke, but then you realize that the person is senior in their career, and then you stay in touch and you get advice. It could be a peer, it could be any other manager that is not your boss in the same company, and you can always approach people when you have the right culture of the company. So that's my advice for people, for mentees or people that would like to learn. You need to be proactive. Nothing comes to you in your hands or served in a silver plate. That's my biggest recommendation. This is the same thing I say to my mentees or any mentees at Toastmasters. If you would like to develop, don't wait for your mentor to come and tell you do this or do that. You need to be proactive and you need to show that you would like to learn and progress.
Incredible. Yeah, and uh, it's so strange how interconnected we are now. Just as a species, but also how diverse you can get and still get a tremendous amount of value out of it. You know, I like I said before, my background is in finance. I work in networking. I do a bunch of stuff. But one thing that I don't do, and unfortunately Jeff can attest to that, is I don't do marketing. I'm horrible at marketing. But one of my favorite mentors in the entire world is a marketer and a brilliant one at that. And so I think there's so much wisdom in your words and being able to say that anyone can be a mentor, right?
Yes.
Um, and Jeff and I really take that to heart. The reason that we started Casually Pro is because we wanted to speak to incredible people like you, selfishly, because it would help us and help us learn about you, but also because we know that there are a lot of people out there that might need a little help. It might need some guidance from someone that maybe they have never would have even known that they'd existed, or might never even get the chance to speak with. But because of that, what we do is we ask every single person who comes on our podcast for something that they can contribute to our listeners, to help them on their way to becoming exactly what they want to be or growing into the areas that they want to grow into. And that question is, what is one skill that has proven irreplaceable during your journey all the way through pharma to creating this idea of thought leadership in leadership, and public speaking? What's one skill that someone can practice today to help them get to where you are?
One skill that's a non-casual question. It's I don't think it's a skill to develop, but there is one thing that if we have it or if we practice it, then we can learn different things. And this is the adaptability to reinvent ourselves. Whether it's one skill with 10 courses and then episode 1, 2, and 3, I don't think it's feasible. But if you are adaptable, if you are a life learner and you can accept the change and change, then you remain relevant. I'm not the big expert in AI, so I will not bombard you with AI. But today, when we see the AI, we see a lot of maybe speakers and leaders are left behind. The skill, and tomorrow maybe there will not be AI, there will be another type of intelligence. But the skill is, how can we adapt, reinvent ourselves in a new environment, new professional environment, new trend, new country. This is what really helps. I don't know if we can teach this skill, because I believe that some personalities are a bit more adaptable than others. But if there is something that we need to all embrace, is the adaptability, because things change and it changed so fast that the skill we had yesterday are not relevant anymore today. So it's this willingness to start almost from scratch and learn and expand our knowledge or try out new things. And don't be afraid to be a new beginner and a risk taker. Also for leaders, this is what will bring us forward, to my opinion. This was not a one word, by the way, but a one philosophy, let's put it like this, the casual way.
Yes, wow, Hannah, that was amazing. You shared so much experience, wisdom, tips. Thank you so much. This conversation was amazing. Now, I would like to ask you one question that we ask all of our guests. I will give you the magic microphone for 2 minutes. And the magic microphone is magic because it allows you to leave a message to everyone who's living on the planet today, but even people who are not born yet. And today, this magic microphone will even allow you to talk to people who are living on other planets, other galaxies, other universe, and even weirder things than our good old reality. You have 2 minutes, Hannah, to share a message that is timeless and universal. What would it be?
Find your why in life. Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you think the things that you think? Why do you feel the things that you feel? The why will give you a sense of direction in your life, a sense of purpose. It will move you forward. Sometimes life can get hard. Remember your why. Remember your why when things get hard, because it will put you back on track. It will bring you motivation. And by finding this why, and when you find the why, because it takes a lifetime sometimes to find your why, be consistent. Don't aim for a giant step of improvement in one day. It's the little consistent steps of improvement in any of the fields, in any aspects of your life, that will bring you not only growth, but self-fulfillment and self-happiness. And to end with, you cannot find your why without finding your voice. So find your voice, and once you find your voice, share it with the whole world to hear.
Incredible. Truly, I think there's no better thing for someone to hear that they are great as people. And even if they wanted to grow, it's not because they're not enough. It's because they're capable of so much more. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really do treasure these moments and these little pearls of wisdom. Where can people find you?
So you can find me at many places. Before announcing where you can find me, I would like also to share a message with you, as both of you as co-host of this podcast. I really like what you are doing, and I think what you are doing allows me also to learn. So all of your guests also are learning, because you are breaking barriers and you are breaking taboos, and you are making very taboo and professional topics casual and reachable. So thank you for the mission you are also giving to us as guests and to everyone. Now, where people can find me. First place, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Hana Brellah, LinkedIn. This is my profile. I have also my company page, Find Your Voice by Hana Brellah. This is the main source of contact. From there, let's have a chat, send me a message, and I can show you the other places, because there are a lot of them. But this is the main place where everyone can find me and reach me. And I share consistently a lot of stories, a lot of expertise, a lot of tips in public speaking, and some of my personal multicultural journey. LinkedIn, Hana Brellah.
Incredible. Thank you so much for joining us. This really was a treat. And to our viewers out there, our listeners, if you made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, send this to a friend, maybe someone who's an up-and-coming leader that needs to kind of expand the way that they think. And make sure to catch us every Wednesday for great episodes with lovely people like Hannah. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.